Hello! Welcome back to Just Be with me, your host, T. In today's video, I will be discussing Baddies USA Chapter 1, Episode 10, entitled Baddie Fragmentation. I will be discussing the storylines and how the season is playing out so far. My goal, as always, is to offer my unique perspective on the decisions that the baddies make, but also have a kiki with you. With that being said, let's get into these baddies. Baddies USA Chapter 1, Episode 10 is entitled Baddie Fragmentation. And as always, we start with the recap. You already know I skipped that. But I will be honest, the episode did start at the 4-minute and 3-second mark. They're doing better. They're not wasting so much time. But the episode picks up with the baddies in the Chicago house. We have White Woman Gretchen versus the Coochie Girls. Suki and Gretchen are going back and forth until they try to fight. Nothing really happens because security comes in and breaks it up. I find it funny that Lex is like holding Sapphire back and a little hypocritical because whenever y'all was fighting, you really wasn't holding Summer back like that. And Sapphire is just standing there for her friend. So what's tea? So Suki has a confessional look. As always, I always talk about the baddies when they get new confessionals. If it's an old confessional throughout the episode, I'm not going to talk about it. But Suki, it's a Suki look, if that makes sense. Like, it's on brand. I do like the simple black hair against the silver. It's fine. Suki lets it basically be known that it's up with the white woman. We'll see about that. So the baddies are all speaking over each other, but this is what I was able to get. I guess Lex was talking about in the center, like if they're gonna fight, let them fight in the middle. Biggie is calling out to Rolly. I don't know why she's trying to get Rolly's attention. Security is dragging Gretchen out and she proceeds to kick one of the security guards, and I'm like, dang, are you gonna apologize for that? But Tinka won't shut up. She's talking about, well, it needs to be one-on-one. She's there, to protect her massa. So I can't help her with that, you know what I mean? Gretchen continues to run her mouth and Sapphire calls Gretchen out for wanting it with both of them, which she did. But Sapphire's trying to hold Gretchen accountable. Suki, however, wants her to stop talking to them. Sapphire tries to hit Gretchen and she misses. No tea, no shade. She does, but at this point, I need somebody to whoop White Woman's Gretchen's behind. And I find it funny that she was trying to justify saying the N-word, but mind you, in this moment, she's not saying the N-word. In her confessional, she's not saying the N-word. So how hard is it for you not to say the N-word? It must not be that hard because you're not yelling it at Suki or Sapphire. You're not in your confessional using it at all. I mean, earlier in her confessional she did, but right now you're not using it. So what's tea? Did you educate yourselves? I highly doubt that. But Suki and White Woman go back and forth. They're throwing insults. And I hate this because we all know how Suki is. We all know she's ghetto, she's ratchet. She that's just how she is. But when it comes to someone like a Gretch or an Anna or a Mariah, y'all like to look at that and be like, oh, that's spicy. Oh, she a little hot. No, it's ratchet and ghetto. It's the same thing. Let's call it what it is. Now, Suki gagged me with this one. Why do we have to fight with cokeheads? When I tell you Biggie's face was my face when she said that, I went, oh, it gagged Biggie too. It gagged me too, Biggie. Now, Tinka's face, I'm not even going to discuss that. Her face looks so bad. Hopefully it looks better now. But Rolly decides to try and change the subject so that she can get on with the meeting and let the baddies know, what's Natalie's wishes of them. Rolly is in her confessional dick riding for Gretchen, and I'm gonna call hypocrisy because when people was jumping, you weren't saying anything. Now a whole white woman is getting jumped and y'all say it's a problem. Right. When you ran up on Slim, it wasn't a problem. Right. And remember, Slim is actually black. Gretchen is not. Clock that tea. And actually, speaking of something, it wasn't a problem when you and E.T. jumped Suki. So what's tea? And they have the footage of that too. Now Rolly tells the baddies that whoever got booed at the previous concert, will not be performing. It's just not a good look. And Summer's like, it's because I'm a villain. And Summer's self-aware. Somewhat self-aware. Good. But shout out to the editors because when she said that, they cut to Fauna in her confessional and they zoomed in on her face like this, and she was like, It was a cute little moment. I was like, editors, y'all are doing better with like adding the zooming in. I love using the zooming in effect because that's probably the only editing that I can actually do so far. I'm getting better with my editing. Comment down below. Do you think I'm getting better? I think I'm getting better. But Rolly continues. Rolly basically states that the ones who got booed will not be performing in Chicago, something I agree with. However, Summer's pissed. She is like, what do you mean? Rolly's like, I mean, this is just what Natalie wants. You could call her if you want and, you know, let her hear her. And I'm like, are you setting Summer up? Bad Dolly adds her 2 cents about Summer being booed. But it's interesting because you also got booed. But I'm guessing this was after she fought Summer because remember she's in a confessional with the cast. So I guess she was trying to clown Summer. But Dolly also doesn't mind because as she states, I'm still getting paid. Now, Lex wants to clarify on, okay, who is not performing because everybody did not get booed. It's an okay question, but Summer comes in adding her nosy 2 cents, and basically, Rolly answers the questions. Summer, Dolly, Gretchen, and Nunu. And I find it funny that while Rolly is explaining this, Lex and Summer are going back and forth. It's a little bit too much. Summer claims that, you know, she heard the fans yelling Big Ivory during Lex's set. And Biggie calls her out for antagonizing Lex. And Summer has been messy with Lex and Dolly. But I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I can get where Summer is coming from. Even if you got booed just a little bit, I don't think you should be performing. And if Lex got booed, even if it was less than Dolly and Summer, she shouldn't be performing. Now, what I think is happening is Lex didn't just perform by herself. Remember, Lex has a song with Natalie. I think she's going to perform with Natalie. Now, I do think it would be interesting if they didn't have Lex do her own set, which I think actually did happen. She just performed with Natalie. Now, if she did her own set, I disagree with that. But if she's just performing the song she has with Natalie, that I get. But her performing by herself, absolutely not. Because when I talked about the performances, I told y'all, Lex cannot perform, she can't rap, she has no flow. And I get it. I'm talking it because I also can't rap. I'm self-aware. I know what I can and cannot do. Lex is glad that Biggie is clocking it. I am too. Lex is in her confessional clocking that Summer is jealous that she got booed and she didn't. Some would agree, you still got booed. Now Summer continues to run her mouth, you know, stating that Dolly and Lex were against the grain, mentioning how she would never fight for them. And I'm like, you didn't want to be friends with them. What's tea? And Dolly calls her out for basically what I just said. You didn't want to be friends with us. And Rolly's like, and this meeting's not gonna get done. Summer and Dolly go back and forth until Lex calls out Summer for taking advantage of her. Dolly piles on. Rolly even states like, Summer, you do too much and at this point, I can't help you out. And at this point, maybe Summer doesn't want to be saved. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved, okay? And maybe she has to be hard-headed and learn the hard way. And that's fine. So Lex lets it be known that once Summer crosses that line, it's up. Biggie reminds Lex, don't try and hit her because that's what she wants. But Suki is like, Biggie, shut up. Like, let them handle that. And I agree with that. Let them handle their business. Don't jump in it. It has nothing to do with you. Suki calls out that Summer was just upset about performing. And Dolly states, you know, she doesn't care and they need to wrap this stuff up so they can move on. But again, Dolly also reminds Summer, like, lets her know, like, when it comes down to it, it will come down to that. Suki wonders if they're done, but then Summer states she has to dress another person. And at this point, this episode is long, by the way, okay? It's a long-ass episode. We get Summer and Mariah Lynn. And at this point, I'm over these two. Like, we all know what's gonna happen. They're gonna fight. They will not do their big ones. End of story. Let's see if I'm right. So they get up to run that fade, and Rolly is shocked, and I don't know why, because isn't that what these meetings are for? Run them fades? But Summer lets it be known that when she's done with Mariah, she wants Anna next. Anna doesn't want that. I disagree. I want to see them get that fairly, with no Scotty jumping in. But Mariah and Summer go at it round one, and no tea, no shade, Mariah lost. Summer got her. Summer had more hits in. Mariah's talking about she did her big one. You ain't do nothing. Then we get a transition after the fight outside of the house because guess who's coming in the house? Tommy. So Tommy arrives in this blouse and nude sparkling tights. It's a choice fit. Her confessional, a choice was made. Whether it's a good choice or not, you decide. But a choice was made. It's very alternate for sure. Tommy is done giving people camera time and she doesn't want to deal with the baddies. And I'm like, too bad, you're on Baddies and you're Natalie's left-hand person. Rolly's right hand, you're left hand. If Rolly's down, you're next. But Tommy comes into the house with the mess and, you know, Summer and Mariah are going back and forth. Rolly's like, I'm gonna go talk to Tommy in the kitchen. Summer tries to go chat with Tommy. While Summer is trying to go walk towards them, Mariah tries to run up on Summer behind her back, and y'all, I take my glasses off for this. She runs up, right? Mind you, Mariah has a clean hit. She has it's there. Like, I don't know if you ever seen when the target goes do-do-do-do-do-do. She has a good target. She misses. And I'm like, Mariah. And after she tried to hit Summer, she bags up. That's when you go in, Mariah. She didn't go in. A round 2 doesn't happen because Anna comes in trying to break it up, and I'm like, Anna, that's lame. Let them run that. Like, girl. But Mariah continues with these lame ass puns in her confessional. She didn't do anything after she leaped, nothing at all. I'm just being honest. So they continue to run their mouths. We cut to Tommy and Rolly in the kitchen, and I would respect it if Rolly and Tommy put their foot down, but they don't. But they are discussing, you know, the baddies fighting for no reason. You know they fight for no reason. It's baddies. Sapphire calls out Biggie because she's like, why are you going to try to talk to Tommy when your friends, Anna, Taseki, and Mariah are here? Like, these are your real friends. But Biggie still wants to have a conversation, which I guess I agree with. Biggie still wants to have a discussion, which I agree because that's what these meetings are for, right? Biggie, we get to see her confessional. Last episode, I couldn't talk about her outfit because they didn't show it, but this episode they did show it. It's cute, it matches with her hair and jewelry, and Biggie has been doing her big one with her confessionals. So Mariah and Biggie join Rolly and Tommy, and Mariah calls out in her confessionals that Biggie is very irritated with Tommy. And I find it interesting that she had a little dog with her in the confessionals. This is my little owl. But I'm like, dang, so all y'all is really copying Scotland. Scotty brings her emotional support dog, Rolly brings her emotional support dog, and now you're bringing your emotional support dog. Gosh, nothing's original anymore. But Mariah basically recaps what happened with Tommy and Biggie like we didn't see it play out on the screen. Summer, Anna, and Taseki join as well, which is interesting. But we get Tommy and Biggie's trying to act all tough. It's very weird. It's not for her. But basically, Biggie brings up how Tommy was on some good energy during the performance, but she also calls her out for trying to gaslight her and put on the front, which I can see because Tommy does be acting funny sometimes, y'all. But Biggie, it's not that deep. Like, Tommy has showed you multiple times who she is. You need to learn to take that and leave with it. Basically, Biggie calls out Tommy for being flippy floppy because she's hanging out with Summer, who she sees as an op. Tommy, however, doesn't feel any type of way. She's like, okay, whatever. And I'm like, Biggie, Sapphire literally just told you that she's not your friend. Your friends are here and you didn't want to listen. That Virgo stubbornness will always get us. Biggie gets closer to Tommy and they're both talking over each other, going back and forth. Biggie just wants an apology. Tommy is like, no. And then finally, Biggie smacks Tommy and it was good. It was good. Tommy tries to rush and get her and security stops this from happening. Anna and Rolly are like, no, you guys, don't. Shout out to Anna because as Tommy was still trying to go around security to get her, Anna was stepping up to protect Biggie, so I really appreciated that. But Tommy's like, nah, I just want a hug from her. Tommy, we're not dumb. You want to go and smack her back. Just say you want your hit back. But Biggie is running her mouth in the confessional, and I'm like, girl, it's not that deep. You know, personally to me, and maybe it's because I've never put my hands on my friends because I have friends and we have boundaries and we understand how boundaries work. But once you put your hands on a friend, y'all are not friends. Ever. Point blank period. You've crossed the line. And some of y'all like to be toxic and go back and forth. Not me, bye. But Biggie states she's done with Tommy. Tommy calls out Biggie because she's like, you was calling me unprofessional, you was putting my business out. But was Biggie not wrong though? You messed up during your performance because you weren't at rehearsal. Now Biggie goes back into the living room with the other baddies and they're trying to see what happened, and I'm like, what do you all think happened? Her wig is gone. Let's not ask dumb questions, okay? But Biggie gives her thoughts about what happened with Tommy, and Sapphire is just staring at her like, Captain Obvious. I told you that. And I agree. Tommy tries to give her case to Anna and Mariah and to Seki. Lets them know, like, I have receipts. But they let Tommy know, like, Biggie is really loyal to you. Like, she really finds you to be a true friend. And Biggie continues to try to get her chest off. Sapphire tries to calm her down. We cut back to the kitchen. Rolly is basically like, y'all know Biggie is an emotional gangster. Very on brand, I agree. And Tommy's like, bullshit, I don't care. Seki's making it known in the confessional that honestly, Biggie is the only one that rocks with Tommy. Everybody in this house don't rock with her. And she's the only one that really be having your back. And I'm like, ooh. But Rolly calls out Tommy because you was being funny. You was playing in her face. She was trying to have a real serious conversation on a deeper level with you, and you was all messing around being messy. And Tommy states that she has receipts. It's text messages. Now, we don't see the text messages. We just see her showing them to the other girls. But we don't see a response. We just see what Biggie sent her, and then there's no response. Like, she says, this is what Biggie sent me, but I don't think she responded to Biggie. So I'm not gonna accept those receipts because we didn't see the receipts. And if I don't see them, you don't see them, they don't count. Bring out the receipts. Biggie's in the living room calling out Tommy for not performing. She drags her performance. And I'm like, y'all wasn't even friends, because if you fall out like this and you pushing her business out like that, y'all were never friends. Tommy leaves. She's in the confessional. She's like, you know, y'all, we lost Biggie. You know, she's not a part of the gang no more. So everybody comes back in the living room, and Rolly basically says, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna let y'all know what Natalie wants, okay? She decides that the baddies are gonna go to the hotel. She lets it be known that Lex will still be performing. Dolly's not performing. Gretchen's not performing. Nunu's not performing. Summer's not performing. Summer throws a whole ass tantrum. And I get where she's mad, but at this point, it's never that deep. It's not that big of a deal. Anna lets them know that she has a song that she wants to practice. She goes over to piano. Honestly, y'all, I was hopeful. I thought she was gonna play the piano. She just messes around and sits her ass on the piano talking about Baddie, Baddie, shot o'clock. And I'm like, can y'all not sit y'all asses on that nice ass piano and break it? Especially a nice piano. And that was a nice piano. Which leads us to a transition. It's a transition of the baddies from the house to the baddies bus. And Fauna's in her confessional, and she's just all over this bullshit, and I agree with her. Smiley states that, you know, the house meetings are the same, and I'm like, when did they ever change? When were they different? But Fauna questions on the bus, like, why was Tommy in and out? And Rolly basically states that Tommy doesn't want to interact with the baddies. And I'm like, huh, that's wild. And Fauna finds it weird, and Tavy also calls it out. We get more transitions back to the baddie bus. Why we need a transition to be back on the bus that we were just on makes no sense to me. DJ Sky tries to give this inspirational baddie speech. We're baddies, we need to stick together, cause we are baddies. We stick together. I just had to take a little spin of the Cheetah Girls and spin it with baddies. Okay? So Tinka thinks everybody did a good job. Sure. And Summer decides to call Natalie. And Fauna's like, don't, it's not a good time right now. I agree. Like, Summer, read the room. DJ Sky clocks that the baddies were really upset about Summer calling Natalie. And I agree. Because if Natalie is dealing with the loss of someone who's close to her, she doesn't need the baddies calling. And honestly, if I was Natalie, every time I saw them call, it would have been click, do not disturb, sent straight to voicemail, boop, boop, because I'm not dealing with that. And at this point, Summer is just mad and upset about not being able to perform. So she calls Natalie, and she basically like snitches to Natalie. And Natalie's like, well, I don't think it's appropriate and it's not good for our brand for people to be booed. And then she's like, well, Lex is still gonna perform even though they was chanting Big Ivory. And I'm like, how old are you? Lex is supposed to be 24. Summer is literally about to turn 30. You're a 30-year-old ratting on a 24-year-old. Make that make sense. Second graders don't even do this. Tavy clocks, you know, that Summer is still running her mouth because someone shut her up. Now, Natalie is saying, you know, well, anybody who got booed doesn't need to perform and they need to figure out what it was. But Summer calls out Rolly. She doesn't say Rolly. She says, well, you had this bitch making decisions and it was a mistake, because Rolly was like, who's a bitch? Who are you calling? Summer, who are you calling a bitch? And Summer gets on the couch because Rolly stands up. She's like, I don't want to fight you, Rolly. You got quiet real fast, huh? And Natalie is on the phone while Tinka's holding the phone. Natalie's on the phone. And I'm like, Tinka, can you hang the phone up? But Rolly clocks Summer and Lex even calls out Summer. And finally, Nat hangs up on the baddies. So the baddies are still on the bus and Fauna calls out Summer for not being able to perform. And Summer's like, no, I'm still performing. And just for that, she wouldn't have been in attendance at all. But we transition back to the Chicago house. It's a new day, and we're gonna bounce between two scenes. So we have Fauna and KK recapping their issue with Nunu. I'm not gonna discuss their lame ass beef. Next, Lex, Biggie, Mariah, and Nunu, they're all recapping the Suki and white woman issue. I'm not discussing this. They move on to discussing the whole Tommy having people pop out on the baddies. We cut back to Fauna and KK and they recap what happened with Suki and white woman, and the fact that they're like, well, we kind of rock with Gretch is wild. And I'm like, Fauna, that's wild because didn't you go to a HBCU? I know for a fact that HBCUs do not play this shit. Then we cut back to Lex, Biggie, Mariah, and Nunu, and they discuss Lex's issue with Summer. And basically, it's how long can Lex wait until it's too much? Lex is a literal time bomb ticking. Like, how much can she wait until it blows over? We get another transition for another meeting. We're back at the Chicago house, and Taseki and Rolly meet up, and then Sapphire and Summer join her. And I find this interesting because Summer has had beef with Taseki and Rolly so far. Summer apologizes to Rolly, taking the high road, I see. And side note, their little Baddies USA blankets were cute. I can tell they're cheap, but they look cute. And at this point, it's not a big deal, but I do get it. Like, if anyone gets booed, just don't have them perform. That way, nobody can get upset. But like I said, I believe it's only because Lex has that song with Natalie that I think she's performing. I don't think Lex is doing her own set, if that makes sense. Rolly clocks how disrespectful and rude Summer was, and Sapphire even calls out Summer for calling Natalie and trying to express herself. They discuss the whole Gretchen issue, and Sapphire does feel bad that she went to the hospital for the cut. I don't. Fuck that hoe. And then we get another transition to back inside the house, another meeting. Tinka is over Rolly calling all these meetings. She's like, you're basically Natalie Jr. Rolly lets it be known that because Natalie isn't here, she did give her some words to give to the baddies. Suki and Sapphire appear. Dolly questions if this is a real meeting or a house meeting, and I'm like, y'all know the difference. Dolly wants to address her issues that she has with Summer. I'm like, okay. So Dolly and Summer begin to address their issues, and it's just a bunch of going back and forth. Dolly keeps checking Summer. At this point, allegedly something happened off camera. We don't see it, and I hate that because this lead up to it came out of nowhere. I was like, why is she coming at Summer like this? But I'm over this. Like, Tinka's face was my face when all of this was happening, right? So they go back and forth. They're just going back and forth, back and forth. Suki leaves to go fix her tampon. It was a nice little icebreaker to end this so Rolly can get back on topic. Okay, shout out to Suki. Rolly lets the baddies know that they're going to a club called Kit Kat. And side note, Rolly's hair in this scene looked really cute and I liked it. And they're going to rehearse for their next performance. The girls who are not performing will be going to a club on the behalf of the baddies, while the other ones are going to rehearse for their performance. Somehow, Dolly pops off on Summer again. They bring that whole issue up again. Rolly continues to clock Summer for her mouth. And at this point, I don't know if y'all have ever been overwhelmed. My brain was overwhelmed. I was like, I can't type fast enough. Like, I type fast. Let me just start there. I type fast. But my brain, hearing what I was hearing and trying to process it and type it at the same time, I just couldn't. Mariah states that Dolly snapped and she basically ate Summer up like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mariah, please don't. Please don't with these corny ass confessionals. But Dolly lets it be known, you know, whatever's going on with her, Lex, and Summer needs to stay between her, Lex, and Summer. And I agree with that. And Rolly is done, and I'm done with this as well. And at this point, the big three is just falling apart. Basically, they need to figure out what's going on. Like, Dolly, if you want to fight her, just fight her. Lex, if you want to fight her, just fight her. Summer, if you don't want nothing to do with them, don't talk about them. Point blank, period. But Anna moves it along, and I'm glad. And Rolly, you know, wants things to move along so they can get ready for the night. And there was this cute little moment. Rolly needed help getting up off the couch, and Biggie helped her. It was cute. She's like, can you help me up, Biggie? It was cute. So we transition to Milan, Italy. Because Jayla and Scotty are in Italy, and I'm not going to discuss anything because this needs to be saved for Scotty with the baby. So say body, but it's with the baby. And this was a waste of an episode because this whole stuff was filler. I mainly just skipped through it. Jayla's confessional was very on brand. Jayla never has a bad look. So we transition back to Chicago with the baddies, and the baddies are leaving for their rehearsals. So in one sprinter, we have Biggie, Mariah, Dolly, Lex, Taseki, Fauna, and KK. And they basically recap what happened at the house. I'm only going to discuss when something new pops up because we already saw it. Like, there's no reason for me to recap what happened. But they're going to be meeting with Natalie at the Kit Kat Club. Natalie's back. Oh. And apparently, Dolly mentions that she would be pouring water into Summer's drinks, trying to dilute it. On the other sprinter, we have Tinka, Summer, Rolly, Tavy, Smiley, and DJ Sky. And they're recapping the big 3 issues. I agree, like Dolly wanting to fight Summer, it was too much. But Summer is also doing too much because she does antagonize them and is messy. Smiley calls out that Summer does throw shots. She does and likes to hide her hands. Rolly also calls it out because she's like, when you're drunk, you're an entirely different person. And you can say whatever you want, Summer, but you can't be mad with how they react. So we cut back to the other sprinter and they're basically recapping the whole Nunu versus KK and Fauna. And Dolly is like, well, why are y'all fighting on the behalf of K-Rican? And KK and Fauna clock her like, okay, because we're fighting for our friend. It was okay when y'all was fighting for Summer last season. Basically, Dolly's like, well, that's last season. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if it was last season. You were still riding for your friend, right? The same way that she said the big 3 need to handle their stuff, let them handle their stuff, which is what KK ends up telling her anyway. Or not KK, Fauna. Fauna explained it very, very well. If somebody wants to stick up for their friend, let them stick up for their friend. It's not a big deal. So we transition to the Kit Kat Club and we see that Natalie is here and Natalie is pissed, rightfully so. Her confessional, y'all, this is her best confessional this season. I love how she looks. No bad words from me, she looks good. Best confessional so far of the season for Natalie. Natalie is upset because the baddies have been blowing up her phone and trying to get her attention despite her personal things going on. And she wants to meet with the baddies and check them about personal space. Again, I'm not mad. Natalie has a right to be upset, and she says she wants to start with Summer, as she should. Now, Summer comes in, you know, smiling, like, oh, Nana, and that's on that, it's not time to smile. And so we get next on Baddies. Natalie is clocking Summer real fast, like real fast. Natalie ends up having a rehearsal for the show with the baddies. She's not in the mood, and she basically lets them know, like, if somebody messes up, you're cut, you're done. So the baddies rehearse for the upcoming performance. We see what's the word, what we doing. Then we cut to Italy with Lemmy and Scotty. Again, save this for Scotty with the baby. But I do think it's cute that they are dining out. Very interesting. I find it funny that Lemmy, you know, is dressed like the good church boy he is. And Scotty looks like a baddie. Church boy and baddie. Wow. We see more recapping the Fauna and KK versus Nunu storyline. It's boring, but Scotty is back. Fauna and Tavy begin arguing with Nunu. I can't really tell what's going on. Fauna and Nunu fight again. I'm really over this storyline, especially when they fight when Nunu's getting her hair done. What's that about? But the baddies are performing in Chicago. Natalie's performing. Tinka brings up the whole, nah, Dolly, you lost. That beef is coming soon. Rolly says she got hit. Somebody hit her? Question mark? I don't know. Back on the Baddies USA bus, Dolly and Tinka get into it. So I was right in my super trailer reaction that it was Dolly and Tinka who got into it. So, yeah. But thank you guys for watching. Remember to like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and of course subscribe to the channel. Why not? Remember, doing all 3 are free, but they help out my channel so very much. With that being said, I'll see you guys later. Bye!